back around and chime in with the presentation. I do have it as well, but ultimately it's about knowing where you are, and there's a a visual aid for that as well. And so when we go through each of these categories, this is going to be intuitive. This is going to be interactive. We're going to actually discover for ourselves where we are, and hopefully the visual aid will just be like, oh my God, I'm on E. And we're going to be able to adjust some things. And one of the things I want to share with you is how to break some of the things that's hindering us with our limiting beliefs. And it's just a small exercise that will help you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now, and we're going to hear from Tony Robbins in these 7 areas as well. So I want everyone, if you can, grab a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil. I'm going to give you like a couple seconds to do that. How is everybody?
Fabulous. Still full off a turkey. I also put the, if they want to do the digital version, I put that link in the chat.
We're going to do that. We are going to do your visual version. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. Cool. Can you see me?
Yes.
How is everybody? I want to hear some energy. We got to be in a good state in order to receive information.
Good morning.
Yes. How was you guys?
What's up, Summer? What's up, Summer personality? How you doing?
I am amazing. So does everybody have a piece of paper and a pen?
Yes.
I got a Word document.
Okay, great. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So you taught me this little trick. So let me do that. Share my computer sound. That would make a difference. So we're going to talk about the 5 areas of life. And the first one is our health and vitality. And I'm going to let you hear from Tony because he does it the best. It's about a minute or so. And then we're going to take a little quiz in each area. And then we're going to be very graphic by going to the Wheel of Life digital and actually inputting that. So you'll have a visual capture of exactly where you are. So take a listen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think, in my personal experience, my focus is I think there are 7 areas you got to master to have an extraordinary life. And your enterprise or your business or career is only one of them. I believe number 1 is your physical body. If you look at this area of your life, when your physical body does not have the energy, the strength, the health, the vitality, the quality of your life disappears. So, the perfect example is you look over at, someone who's incredibly successful in business. Let's look at a Forbes, Malcolm Forbes. What an unbelievable man and what he built and what he generated, Forbes magazine. How much money did he leave when he died? All of it, right? Every penny. So richest man in the graveyard is not your goal, or richest woman in the graveyard. So I'm just gonna say to you, if you're thinking about the quality of your life, if this area isn't strong, you got problems. Give yourself a score right now so you're honest, 0 to 10. 10 is where you really want to be. By the way, for some people, 10 is that, they got, washboard abs and everything else. For somebody else, 10 is they got the energy to burn. That's what life is for them. You don't have to have a perfect body. It's not somebody else's idea of 10. Plus, what's a 10 for you physically at different stages of life might be different, right? I mean, what's a 10 at 20 might be a different 10 at 50. So this is not my standard. Just for a moment, if you're gonna have a great life, here's how you know what a great life is. You gotta know where you are and where you want to be. A map is worthless if you know where you want to go, but you don't know where you are. So let's start with our life. Physical body, where are you 0 to 10 on your terms, whatever 10 is today. All right? And you might say, Tony, I don't want to be a 10. I want to be an 8 in that area. I'm not here to tell you what's right for you. I'm here to have you tell yourself what's right for you. So what is it? So I think
So number 1, guys, is your health and vitality. Did you hear that from Tony? I mean, and I want you guys to rate yourself. He said rate yourself from a 1 to 10. 1 being dissatisfied, and 10 being satisfied. Does everyone have that?
Yes.
Is anyone a 10? Absolutely not. So the next meaning is mind and meaning.
What's the second area of mastery? Emotion and meaning. I have a friend who sold his business for more than $1 billion in net profit to himself. How euphoric do you think he was when he sold the business? What would you say, 0 to 10? 20, right? He's telling me, I built this business over 25 years. I sold this business. I made $1 billion, and he was just out of his mind. 3 months later, and I predicted this to people around him, I knew he'd be miserable. Now, why would he be miserable? Because most people think that I want to make enough money so I never work again. Now, I did this also. When I was young, my goal was to make enough money to retire. And at 24 years old, I made the money I thought it would take to retire, because based on that lifestyle, I could. Right? It was what I thought was an unbelievable lifestyle. And I did the same thing. This is why I knew what happened to my friend on a smaller scale, but it was the same thing for me. I never had to work again as long as I lived. I had enough money without ever working to cover my entire lifestyle. So I went around, I went to beaches, I went to islands, I did all these cool things. I was never into alcohol. I started to drink because I was bored. I chased girls. I did all kinds of very fascinating things, but nothing really juiced me. It gave me pleasure, but not fulfillment, right? So what you think is going to make you happy may not make you happy. Then think about, what is your level of mastery of human emotion and meaning? Do you come up with a meaning? Do you focus on what you're missing out on, or what you can still get? Do you make it the end or the beginning? What do you do? If you had to write down a list of emotions that you live consistently, would you say that the majority of them are uplifting, creative, grateful, or would you say the majority of them right now in your life currently are more stressful, more frustrated with people or performance, more overwhelmed, more concerned, or even depressed or sad? And it may change in different areas of your life. Like, wow, you feel really confident in the business, but in your intimate life, oh my God. Or you're so worried about your kids. You follow me? So where would you say your center of gravity is emotionally on a 0 to 10 scale? 10 is you live in the uplifted part of life. Everybody has challenges, everybody has frustration, upset, but you really live that center of gravity at the high end that uplifts you. Or is the center of where you spend most of your time on the low end? Where'd you give yourself 0 to 10? And finding the empowering meaning and finding the uplifting emotion. Your emotional life, where you live consistently, is the quality of your life. You can talk about things, but we're emotional creatures, and what you feel is the quality of your life.
Okay, guys, from a scale of dissatisfied to satisfied from 1 to 10, where do you rate yourself emotionally? Next is the third step, which is love and relationships. And we're going to go over this, and then we're going to, pause, and then we're going to interact and then take the quiz.
Third area of life that's really, really critical is relationship. You gotta master this, not dabble in it, or you're gonna have pain. And by the way, I believe relationships are life. I mean, think about it. What are the most important relationships in life? Your relationship with those you love, your relationship with your creator, your relationship with yourself. If you had to do an inverted pyramid of importance, where the peak of it, the most intense part of it, the base of your life, what relationship probably has the ability to give you the most pain or pleasure in your life? Anybody know? Your intimate relationship. Because that's the place where your deepest fear that you're not enough or you won't be loved can be most powerfully impacted. Many people say, my kids, but the truth of the matter is your kids are a more certain love. In fact, many people have children purely out of the idea that then they can't get away. They're gonna love me because they're dependent upon me, they're my blood. But of course, that can change too as they go through different stages of life. But if you're thinking about your intimate relationships, where would you score 0 to 10? If you don't have one, it's called 0. Okay? Where would you score, for example, your family relationships, the next really powerful element? Where would you score going below that? Friends. If you don't score well on friends, you really are screwed. Because that's the easiest category. Because with friends, you give them the most latitude, don't you? You have the fewest rules. You have much more rules for your lover or for your husband or your wife than you ever do for a friend. That's why the friend seems to do well. They have less rules they can break. And then finally, your coworkers or associates. If you had to amalgamate that, but giving the highest value to the intimate relationship, next to family, right, then friends, then to others, what would you give yourself a score on 0 to 10? And again, this is not my standard, this is yours. Your idea of what a 10 would be in all relationships versus where you really are. Where would you put yourself? Write it down so you're honest.
Okay, take a minute and rate yourself and be honest. Okay, here's the 4th level.
Fourth area, the mastery of time. Time. And here's just a simple way of thinking of this is, does time use you or do you use time? Can you perfectly manage your day and achieve every outcome, every activity, cross off all your to-dos and still be unfulfilled by that day, yes or no? And most people, what they tend to do is confuse movement for achievement. What you want to be able to be clear about here is, are you able to use time to get what it is you want out of it? In fact, what is time? Think about it. What is time? Here's what time is. Time is emotion. It's a mental construct, but the way we know it is through emotion. Think about it. A long time can be a second if you're really miserable, right? A minute. And how many of you have been in a situation where some hours went by and it was like minutes? You didn't even notice the time. What we call it time flew. Think about it. When time flew, what happened? You were enjoying yourself. You were fulfilled. But time is emotion, the mastery of it. What would you give yourself 0 to 10 right now? 10 is absolutely where you want it to be. Time serves you. You don't serve time. 0 is, my God, it's pure stress. 4th area, the mastery of.
You guys got that? Anyone a 10 in this area? Here's
Yeah,
the
but
5th level.
surprisingly, this score was higher than the others. Surprisingly.
Well, you know what? This is just a measuring stick, right, guys? I
I
mean,
think I'm intentionally working on this now. That's probably why I'm putting a lot of focus on that area now.
yes.
Mhm.
And you change over time. It's different
Mhm.
states of mind. So here's the career.
Fifth area of life, I think you got to master, have an extraordinary life. Now we get to the part most of you talk about, your job, your career, or your mission. And when I say job, career, or mission, in that 5th category for you, think of it this way. Think of which one is it for you? Is it work? Is it career? Or is it a mission? I know by which word you selected the level of stress that you have. Because if it's work, I know it's painful, right? If it's a career, it might have some pain, but there's a different level of fulfillment because you start to attach it to identity. If it's your mission, it's beyond you. If it's your mission, it's about serving beyond yourself. And when it's your mission, it's something you love at a different level than you could ever love a career. You can only love something that's giving to you so much. Here's the mentality to think about it. If business is a spiritual game, then it's really falling in love with those you serve. Now, when you have that mentality about your customers, I promise you'll get raving fans. I promise you'll come up with answers. When it's a career, which many of you have an enterprise, but it's really a career, it's a big job. You wouldn't call it that because it feels good to be the entrepreneur. But if you ever stop working, it's over. And you're really trying to make the business meet your needs. That means it's a job or it's a career. If you can get it where it's a system that's truly about serving the customer's needs, that will be something you can eventually exit because it isn't totally dependent upon you. You may not want to exit it. You may keep the business forever, but you could because you've created something that adds massive value and is constantly meeting the needs of customers because it's based on a love for them. Think about it from that mindset. Where would you score yourself right now? Where you are versus where you want to be. 10 is exactly where you'd want to be in your career, your job, your mission, your enterprise. 0 is dead. You haven't even begun the process. Or it's the worst. It's worse than you ever dreamed of. Give yourself a score based on your standard.
Okay, guys, rate yourself. Okay, the next one is about how your money and your lifestyle. So this is going to be really interesting.
Next piece for you, of course, is economics. And notice we got the economics at number 6. Not because it's not important. Economics is very important. If you don't think it's important, how many found out it's important when you didn't have any economics? Right? And most arguments in relationships very often will revolve around economics. It's not because of economics, though, you'll find out if you study relationships. It's based on values. It's based on not feeling a connection. But those will be the surface arguments. So we got to master this area of our life, and this is part of that science of achievement, right? Very important to do. But if you make that number 1 and you pass up your body, your emotions, and your relationships, and your time, what will the quality of your life be? You'll be a terrible manager of your life and maybe a great manager of your enterprise. You need to make sure you're good at both. Life's got to come first. That's why we're taking the time to review this briefly, okay? So where would you give yourself a 0 to 10 in your finances? Where you are versus where you want to be? Next piece for you, of course, is economic.
Okay, guys, 2 seconds to rate yourself. And then the last cycle for the wheel of life is number 7.
And then finally, the 7th area, which I put at the peak because I honestly think it's the most important area of all, because this is what gives our life meaning. And if you want to know how you have long-term happiness, it's finding a sense of meaning, something that is beyond yourself. And the 7th area I call C&C, which means contribution and celebration. How masterful are you in your life at making sure that you truly are each day feeling a sense that you're contributing beyond yourself? When people, for example, only do things for incentives, they only do it because they can make money, or they only do it to get what they can get out of a situation, eventually you feel not like a horse trader, but if I can use the aggressive term, a whore. Because a whore is someone who only gives you love if you pay them. And so I'm using that word to be excruciatingly bizarre, intense, to kind of jolt your nervous system. But that's what you feel like. When you only do things for money and that's the only reason you're doing it, there's no way you can feel good about you. Very often businesses make the biggest mistake. They keep incentivizing people, and that's the only form of motivation. Well, can you get somebody to do anything if you offer them enough money? Not everybody, but most people, yeah. But that person has no pride. That person has no fulfillment. And then the next time they want more money to do it, there's only so much money a business can offer. The deepest drive within a human being is a sense of meaning. A sense of meaning comes from growing and giving. The only way you're going to be fulfilled is meet those final 2 human needs. You got to grow or you don't feel alive. You got to give or you don't feel alive. That's part of what life is about. Some people, though, are great at contribution, but
Sorry.
has no pride. That person has no fulfillment. And then the next time they want more money to do it, there's only so much money a business can offer. The deepest drive within a human being is a sense of meaning. A sense of meaning comes from growing and giving. The only way you're going to be fulfilled is meet those final 2 human needs. You got to grow or you don't feel alive. You got to give or you don't feel alive. That's part of what life is about. Some people, though, are great at contribution, but they're not great at celebration. And after a while, their brain gets tired. They're doing well, they're succeeding, they're contributing, but they never stop to celebrate because we live in a culture where, you want to be appropriate all the time. Some incredible thing happens and you play it down, because you don't want somebody to be envious or you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But if you don't really stop and celebrate, it's like watching a parent. I see this all the time. You'll see a parent and they'll go, well, my son, my daughter, they have it so much better than I ever did. I mean, they've got opportunities like I never had. I've helped to create all this for them. And they're pissed off about it instead of celebrating. Celebrating what you've contributed to your family. Celebrating that you've helped to create this base for them to launch from. Without celebration, life is empty. Where would you give yourself? By the way, some of you might say, well, I'd give myself high on contribution, but low on celebration. By the way, if you celebrate all the time, but you don't really contribute, the celebration's empty, isn't it? Where would you merge these two? What would you give yourself 0 to 10 if you were to merge these two?
Okay, guys, did anyone on the call rate a 10 at anything?
No.
I'm trying to make this bigger. So what I want everyone to do now is stand up. Stand up, guys. We got to get some energy flowing through your body. So if you're not a 10 on the call, there's something hindering you from being a 10. And those are usually beliefs and patterns that we have. So I want you guys to put your hands along your chest and I want you to clap. Do it again. Do it again. Now, every time you clapped, was your thumb on the same side? That's a pattern. Now try it the other way. Try it where your thumb is on the other side. Does that feel awkward? Yeah. Do it again. Doesn't that feel awkward? You're breaking a pattern. And that's what we have to do for each limiting belief that's stopping us from being a 10. So this is the wheel of life. It's going to be uncomfortable, guys. You guys can sit down. I just wanted you guys to get some energy because when you're learning something, you have to break the pattern and you got to break your belief. And to receive information, sometimes you have to elevate your energy through your body. And to do that, that's standing up or doing something unorthodox. With Tony Robbins, we stand and we shout and we put our hands up and we get energy flowing through our body because you can learn 90% more of what you normally would do if you're in a better state. It's called priming or getting in state. So, oftentimes during the day, I'll just do a karate chop and say, yes. Yes, yes, because that intensifies my different state of being. And when you open that up, it's called an alpha state also. When you do that, you can receive information. So this is the wheel of life. And Tamara has been so kind to allow us to do this. This is going to give you a visual aid to where you are and what limiting beliefs that you have. So if you have a 5 or a 4 or a 0, I want let's take, for example, in our career. I mean, we have careers in FES and outside of FES. And if you're not a 10, I want you guys to speak up and tell me why you might not be a 10. And then you're going to break that. See, for career, for example, you can say, we can just use FES. You're not where you want to be in your career with FES because maybe we're not putting in enough time. Maybe we don't want to make phone calls. Maybe our spouse is not, on board with us. Maybe it's, you don't feel that you have enough information. Maybe you're not organized. if those are some limiting beliefs, because these are all patterns that we've developed over time, and there's some hidden agenda in our minds, something that happened before, and you have to break that cycle. So can anyone step up and say, you know, what may be stopping you, or what you believe, your old belief, and then you're going to do that exercise and you're going to get uncomfortable with that. So when that swells up in your emotions right before you're about to execute something, you can change that pattern. And it is uncomfortable. But as Lisa Nichols talks about, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And then it'll change over time. It normally takes about 21 days to change a pattern. So can someone speak up and talk about maybe what's stopping them? That is a pattern, because we all, if it's been done before, everyone can do it. It's just a belief that you have, and that identifying belief is going to help you. You're going to change your pattern. You're going to do something different when that swells up in you, when you're about to execute. Anyone wants to contribute?
I will add that number 4 for Tony Robbins was productivity and performance.
Yes.
So one thing I've done, and then he talked about managing your time. One thing that I've really done is I've created the structure to ensure everything gets done. So I've added the time to my schedule. I've allotted for it. I've kind of created a habit, but I get distracted by that like shiny object syndrome. So even though I have the time set aside, something else always comes up that seems to be a higher priority, or that just distracts me from that focus. So really mine is not one of the ones that I think what's causing me to not be as high as I'd like to be in the career and business. It's really about just probably discipline, adding more discipline. And then also to note that these categories are different than what Tony Robbins had. They're very similar, but they're different orders. So if you don't just transpose them from what he had, if you want to take this and see where you are, because the categories are laid out differently.
And you actually broke down family and friends, and he had it combined together. So, you know, this is just a gauge. It's just to be aware. And so for money, I mean, does everyone have the amount of money that they want? Health, and you can plug in. You want to explain how to put this in, Tamara?
Sure. So basically all you do is put in your name and your email address, and then you're going to rate your satisfaction, not happiness. Happiness is temporary. So your satisfaction, how satisfied are you with these areas of your life? And you're going to rate them on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being most satisfied and 0 being dissatisfied. So once you rate each of these areas and you create your wheel, not only will it show you a picture of what your particular wheel looks like, it'll also email it to you. And then I highly recommend that people go back to this after they've like strategically worked on some areas to improve those different areas, that you go back to this test from time to time and take it again. It's not one of those mindset tests where this is who you are. This is something you have 100% control over improving. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like if there's an area of your life you're dissatisfied with, you can do something about that. You have 100% control over getting all 10s. You really do. But it's about creating a strategic plan on how you're going to accomplish that.
Great. Thanks for that contribution. So 10 in each of these categories is mastery, guys. And that's when you're totally fulfilled in all areas of your life. So has everyone completed that? Do they get this right away?
Yeah, it'll show it to them right away on their computer screen. It'll also email them a copy of their wheel.
So I'm gonna just go through this and just put some numbers in so you can get a visual of how it will be.
And you'll
And it's
probably have to
already in the
put your-
chat, guys.
Yeah, you'll have to
Click
put
it.
your name. Yes, it's in the chat. Can you not see it here? I'll sorry. It's back in the chat. .com. There you go.
So this is gonna be an example of how that wheel looks. Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
So Tamara,
Yeah.
I love your example when you talk about, imagine this. So if you're a 10 all the way around, and you can liken that to a tire, Tamara has a great example of this. So you want to
me
take it
share my
away?
screen? Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Okay, I will do that. Hold on. Let's see. All right. So let me get to that screen, and I know my categories are
I think it's
different.
12.
Is it okay? Sorry, hold on.
So we went over that, and it's a
Okay.
beautiful presentation. You can start from there.
Okay. So basically I think life is like riding a bike, right? It's something you just do. Once you learn it, you never forget how to live life. Just like once you learn how to ride a bike, you never forget. But if you think about your wheel, if this was your wheel of life, well, then every area in your life is meeting satisfaction and it's equally balanced. Chances are your wheel didn't look anything like this. Chances are your wheel looked something more like this, right?
Mhm.
And so, my question is, if this is your wheel and you're trying to ride a bike or drive a car with a wheel that looks like this, well, then, that's going to be a pretty bumpy ride. And so I say an unbalanced wheel of life is like a flat tire, right? You can't go anywhere until you change it. And that's major. And that's the thing that I love most about, if you talk about your wheel of life, your satisfaction within your life, it is 100% changeable. It is 100% within your control.
Mhm.
And many of these categories affect other categories.
Mhm.
So I I like to show this picture of this cute dog, right? So this dog, he's balancing this wheel. He looks, yeah, it's definitely a he. Looks very, comfortable and trained, and he looks like he could do this all day, every day, right? And then I talk about the fact that, this dog obviously had a trainer. He didn't just learn to get up on this wheel and balance it himself. And that's a benefit in having like business partners. Being a coach, having a coach, getting a coach, having a mentor, really tapping into the support of your community, because we could all learn to be more trained in certain areas. If you don't have a mentor, get a mentor, because there's something that you see in that mentor that they have that you're looking or you're aspiring to perfect, right? So that was my whole dog analogy on the wheel. You can balance your wheel. You can look this cool doing it too. This cute. I don't know if you can look this cute, but you do. Sometimes we need to have help, and sometimes we just need that accountability partner who could say, you were looking to improve this. What have you done towards that?
Well, that's excellent. Thank you for that. Does anyone want to discuss their wheel? And isn't that shocking in that visual aid about your life being like a flat tire? That's amazing. So can you imagine you bumping around your life. Every day we get up, we do the same thing, and it has to break. But those limiting beliefs, what I want you to do is just think about what's stopping you in each of those categories. What is dissatisfied? What are the things that you may need to change? And then to change them, it's not just to know that, you know, those are limiting beliefs. You have to do something about it. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get the same results every single time. So is there anyone that want to contribute and talk about some of the things that is hindering them in each category, and maybe some things that they can do to change? Like, for instance, for health, for me, like, I need to exercise. I need to exercise. My treadmill is my second closet. It has clothes on it. It has water bottles on it, and I literally will walk past it like it's an invisible wall. Like, I'll be walking towards it and I'll just turn and do something else. It's a limiting belief. Something is stopping me from doing that, and it's became a habit. And then you'll think, oh, well, I got to make this phone call. You will do everything else but what you need to do. And that one little thing is the wall, this invisible wall that is hindering us from going on the other side of freedom, or etching up to a 10 in that category. So what I had to do was say, listen, I had to create a purpose, a passion. So when I see that treadmill now, you know, it's been doing that for the last week, and I know that I'm getting to that point where I'm going to walk past the treadmill. I sit and I'll do an exercise. Like, I have to do this because you have to have a passion. I want to be in a bikini if I could ever travel when I go to Florida. Or it has to be something bigger than yourself. And when I get to that, I'll snap my hands and it's uncomfortable. I'll put my thumb on the other side. But you have to stop. You have to be aware, because if you're not thinking, see, sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we do have a brain, because we're running so much on automatic. I get up at the same time, I come downstairs, make coffee. So I had to break that pattern. I walk down the other way. I walk through the living room instead of the dining room now, because you have to do something unorthodox to change a pattern. So when I know that I'm getting into that pattern, I'll just stop. I'll hold my hands up and get uncomfortable, because you got to come into your superhero powers. You have an idea of how you are, and you have to go into that Superman or Superwoman power, because that's the real you. That's the you that you want to be. But we can't do that because we have all this baggage, all this, chatter, all these monkeys on our backs that we have to just get off. And sometimes you have to just do it. You can't think. It's got to be beyond thinking, because our brain is like a computer. So it's only going to do what it's programmed to do. So now you got to reprogram it. And that's the only way you can do it, is by changing the pattern, jumping up and doing something different, so you can change your different state. If you never change your state, you're going to continue to do the same recording that's in your brain over and over and over and over and over and over again. Does that make sense to you guys?
Absolutely. Okay.
Yes.
So if it's something that you like to do, for me, I'll do the clap and say, okay, that's uncomfortable. Just do it. See, sometimes you just can't think. You just have to believe, because once you do that, like, I guarantee you, within 2 minutes of getting into that, like for me, for exercise, after like 2 minutes, I'm in that zone, because I've transformed from this state. We talked about different levels of energy. See, you'll go into your comfort, which is your desire, to that next step, because you're raising your energy level. And when you can raise your energy level, it's just like a building with the same with different floors. When you go to the next floor, it's just a different state of mind. And if you can do that, then you become, morph into that person that you want to be, that real you, that real Tamara, that real Whitney.
I love that you use that example, honestly. I had kind of a funny story. Yes, day before yesterday, I bought one of those mirrors, you know, the interactive exercise thing. And I told myself, I'm like, this thing is gonna make me get up and exercise. Like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And every time I turn it on, it's because my grandson comes over and asks to play with it. And so I'm sitting there on the couch with my feet up, recording him doing the mirror. And I had my mom on video the other day, and my mom goes, and so my grandson said to me, he says, Deanna, get up and do it with me. He said, come on, fat butt. He called me fat butt. And he's 4. And I just about died. I said, where did he get that from? Do you know, I got up there with him, with my mom on video, because the main reason I don't do it is because somebody's always home and I don't like to be watched while I'm doing it. So it was a limiting belief. So I got up with my mom watching me on video, with my daughter there and my grandson there. And I worked out to this whole entire video. He quit 3 times. I did the entire thing. And I pushed myself to keep going. I'm like, I did not spend all this money on this piece of equipment to not use it because I'm worried about what other people think I look like. My mom ended up saying, you go, girl, look at you still doing it. You ain't sat down yet. And I refused to quit. I was like, no, I can do this. And so I've been on that thing every day since then.
It just so you're in a different state. That was a different state.
Calling me fat butt made me uncomfortable.
Exactly. Anyone else?
What do you want us to share?
Maybe something that's hindering you in one of the aspects of your life that is causing you not to be a 10, not to be a mastery in that element, and some things that you can do to break that mental block when you get to that situation. And that for me is jumping up, just raising my level of state of mind. And then that puts you in a totally different mindset. I mean, it's really, really basic. It's really, really clear. It's just like, you could be sad, and then in the next minute, something to come on and make you laugh. And nothing's changed. It's the same time. It's the same moment, but something altered your mindset. And what it is just you raised your level of elevation because the same time is there. So I want you to share what's stopping you in one of these elements and some things that maybe I can help you break as far as getting into a different state of mind to doing that particular task to raise it.
For me, my limiting belief was weather, because I used to go outside and walk all the time, but it's getting colder. So I was like, oh, it's too cold. And then also going to the gym, I go to Planet Fitness, but with the pandemic, they're shutting down a lot of stuff, or they're limiting the people that can be in there. So I've been letting that tell me like, oh, you can't work out because you can't go outside, you can't go to the gym. But I just have to develop some home workouts and just do them and set a time in the morning. Because when I wake up early and I'm focused, I feel like I can take on the world and do what I want to do. But if I don't wake up on time, or if I don't have that energy, like you said, or that focus, then I'm like, I'll do it later, or I'll do it tomorrow, or whatever. So I just have to set my mind to it and say, I'm gonna do it, whatever it is, even if it's just some push-ups or something, I just got to do it, because I haven't worked out in like 2 weeks. So I need to get back on my grind.
So you haven't worked out inside or outside? You said it was from the weather.
No, I used to walk every day in the morning, but it's starting to get colder. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then I used to go to Planet Fitness, but with the pandemic, they're shutting down a lot of them, or saying that you can only have a certain amount of people in there. So that was a limiting to belief, like, oh, I can't go because of that. So This meeting this morning is helping me just get that kick in the butt I need to do just to do it.
Yes, if you go back to that wheel and know that, dang, my wheel is like half, it's flat in some areas, that should give you a visualization of that you got to do it. If
Yep.
if you're in a car, do you think you could go far with your wheel looking like this?
No.
When it should look like, go to the full satisfaction mastery. That's a full tire. But if you're on all fours and your tires look like the next slide, you're not going to go far. So that should give you a visual aid of, I got to feel that tire so I can move. And you've had that feeling before. It's just something's causing you not to do that. And it's usually a limiting belief, like outside. Okay, the weather is cold. But what you have to say to yourself is, it's cold for everyone where you stay. And there are people that are going out. So that's, if everybody in the world has that same belief, or the people that are exercising, then that is your limiting belief. If it's done, then that means it's a limiting belief in you. You kind of get, I don't know if I'm saying that right,
No, that
but
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
that's what makes a limiting belief.
It's an excuse.
Yes.
One thing I've learned, and I haven't mastered yet, but I know I'm working to improve it, is one thing I've learned is to take those things that I'm really strong in and get them to help me in those things that I'm weak in. And so, like, one of the things I'm really good is, if something is on my calendar, it gets done. No doubt about it. It is done. If it's on my to-do list, well, that's different, right? And
Right.
so what I started doing is, number one, I gave myself a couple of rules, and I won't reschedule something on my to-do list. Like, I won't delegate it or move it over to the next day more than 2 times. That's a rule that I set up in my head. And so it forces me to make sure I get it checked off that list. But the other thing that I started doing is, I look at different things that I don't feel like I'm setting a time aside that I know I need to set aside. And even though I have a overall schedule of when I should be working on something in particular, well, I've actually started blocking that time in my calendar. And so I've actually started adding in appointments. I always show up for my 3-ways team, right? I always show up for this kind of thing. So I need those on my list, right? So, but guess what? I might not put my own 3-way. I might not put my own calls on my calendar because they're not technically scheduled. Anything that's scheduled, I don't have a problem with it. So that's one thing I just started doing recently, is like, there's things that me and the team are working on creating. Well, I've actually started blocking off the time in which I'm going to create those things into my calendar. I actually put it on my calendar, so I know at this time I'm gonna focus on this area.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Another thing you can add to that, because what you've done is, people are motivated either because of pain or pleasure. And so you've identified scheduling and doing something as a positive result. So you reward yourself. I mean, you say you got it done. I mean, that's a form of completion to you. And so you've connected schedule with something positive in your life. And another thing that you can do is reward yourself for every time you do something and you complete it. So for you, Whitney, when you need to change the weather as a positive as opposed to a negative, somehow you've identified cold and exercise. But now we need to probably incorporate it as a positive, like, I am stronger than ever to be able to go out in the cold to exercise, and then reward yourself, break that habit, do it the first time, and then evaluate when you get back home and then you can reward yourself. And then that means you have to be aware. And it could be, you know, that you're going to have that burst of energy, or something good is actually going to come out of that because you've overcame a limiting belief, and the universe always rewards you for things that you do that's beyond when you surrender to the universe.
I'm gonna do it after this call.
Yes. Opposite is uncomfortable, but if you do it, you will receive a reward.
Yeah. Oh,
And then
you always have a
make
great
a
feeling overcoming your fears. And,
Mhm.
just do it, like you said, because when you sit there and think too long, your brain is going to calculate some sort of excuse or why you can't. So just do it. Yeah.
Right. Well, our brains are ancient. They're 2 million years old. So our brain is always going to share with you how to protect you. And so for some reason, in that particular category, your brain is on defense because it's uncomfortable. And we just have to break those bad habits. And that's one way I did it, is getting uncomfortable, putting my hand the other way, jumping up and down, getting into a different state, observing what happens after I push through that invisible wall. And then Tamara, you mentioned a to-do list. I can see this to-do list all the time, and I seem to skip over some things. It's like my hand just goes like, whoop. Like, because whatever that task was is something that I've identified as painful.
Mhm.
So then you have to just slow down, because if you don't, you're just in this robotic state where your brain is just in a pattern and it's going to do the same thing over and over again. So when I know that I am in this, deficiency state, or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, or if I scarf over a task that I have on my list because I've associated that with pain, I'm like, okay, I'm associating this with pain. Why am I doing that? Okay, I'm gonna do it anyway. I got to get uncomfortable and push through it regardless of the result, because it's just a process of doing it. And then I measure or scale the outcome of that, and then I reward myself. And then if you do that constantly, you will get a different change in your attitude, and then it'll just become a new norm for you. See, we're so in this robotic state, we have to get out of our own norm. That's just the way it is. So my will is kind of like this will. Most people's wills are. So I know, I mean, that's uncomfortable to know that I'm running on E. I'm running on flat tires. How can you be a better parent? How can you be a better spouse? How can you have great health? How can you run your business if you're not on full? Your car cannot do that, even if it's deflated a little. I mean, they'll tell you, your cars have to be at a certain, whatever the air pressure is. Even if it's running, it's affecting the whole car, even if it's deflated a little. So guys, we got to get our cars, we got to get our bodies, we got to get our money, our health, elevate that. But you got to do something different. And it's hard to do all of these at one time. So work on 2 or 3 at a time. And at night, I have this little tin can, and I have these decks of postcards. I mean, the little index cards. And I write one thing that I'm grateful for that I did. That's what you should do before you go to bed. I mean, we watch the news, we watch CSI and Ray Donovan and all these other things, and our brain goes to sleep on that.
Mhm.
But what if you went to sleep on something that you accomplished, something that you had a breakthrough? I mean, Whitney, if you go out and literally exercise today, you should say, I'm grateful that I pushed through that. Because see, once you break the walls down, and your energy will be so different. And you know how you could tell? Because about somewhere during a day, you're going to say, dang, I could have went out and exercised. Dang, I could have actually made 10 extra calls. That's your subconscious telling you that, yes, you should have did it. And it's going to give you that same teachable moment until you break it, because that is exactly the difference between you succeeding and failing, or being average or mediocre or settling.
I'll tell you, you can put this into action by doing something very simple, breaking down each category and any of the scores that you are very unhappy with, like whether they were shocking to you or whether, you know, they just kind of put you down that, oh my God, that score is so low. These are all within your control. Think of what could you do, or what could happen in order to get that particular area to a 10. I mean, and you can think about all of these areas and how you could get them to a 10, but the ones that were really shocking to you or that were really low and disappointing to you, think about what you could do to get those areas to a 10. And then my recommendation is to pick 3 areas a day. And I know that seems like a lot, right? But think about it this way. If your money was low, your health was low, and your friends were low, what if your 3 things that day was to make 2 extra calls, which will increase your money, right?
You're right.
To exercise for 15 minutes and to call an old friend. Those things don't take a lot of time. Even if you just sent a text to an old friend, those things don't take a lot of time. I think we think about these things as some pie in the sky or too big to accomplish in a day. But if we
Go ahead.
break it down, you know, into what we can do, what can we physically do that day to make measurable progress? It's not like we could get all these areas up to a 10 overnight, but what step can we take to make measurable progress so that we're continuously working to you know, improve our quality of life in all of these areas? So that's my recommendation. It's not just about knowing where you're at, it's about knowing what can you do to improve your wheel, to balance your wheel, right? A lot of people come to me because their career is not where they want it to be, right? And in turn, guess what? Sometimes their money is not where it needs to be. And in turn, guess what? Their fun is not where it needs to be. And guess what? Sometimes it's affecting their family life because their career, their money, and their fun is not where it needs to be. And guess what? They don't have time for a relationship because their career is not where it needs. I'm saying all of these things can affect and impact your entire life, right? But you got to take, what if this was your wheel and your spirituality was strong? Then you got to tap into that belief, tap into that strength, and see how that can help you improve each and every other area of your life, because there's a way to tap into those things that you are strong at, right?
Yes.
And if it's not you, if you're not strong in these areas, then you got to reach out and get help.
Yes. So guys, was that helpful?
I said it's about the small wins, not looking at the whole wheel.
Exactly. You look at that whole wheel and it's overwhelming.
Daunting task. You got to
that whole wheel is overwhelming. You got
It is.
What bite can I take today?
Right. Little wins equals victories. Little wins equals victories, guys. So was this helpful, enlightening?
Yes.
And thank you. And Tamara, I just want to really give you a big shout out. I mean, I think we were on the phone to what, 2? And then I was like, I'm going to discuss the will. You're like, you thought I was talking about will and trust.
I did.
Yes. And you're like, oh my God, I have a whole presentation about that. And you know what I said? I would love for you to co-host and provide some input on today's call. And I really appreciate you, the PowerPoints, and giving people access to I Propel. I mean, you're a great coach, career coach, and I think you're more than that. I think you're just an inspiration and a great accountability person for me. So I just really appreciate the conversations that we've had. It's just been amazing. I thought I saw our SVP on the line. Oh my
Man, I'm so upset. I had a therapy appointment, like, for like stretching I'm like, oh my God. And I caught bits and pieces. I'm like, man, I just was looking to see if it was recorded right before you were.
Yeah, I recorded it.
Oh, sweet. I'm like, no, this is something that is, you guys smashed it from the little bits I heard. I'm like, this is really, I mean, this is what people need. You know what I mean? Like, this is great stuff. I think that, when you talk about our business at FES and that, I mean, people, they get so focused on, oh my God, how do I get another sale? How do I get another agent? They don't realize that this is way more than that. Like, to be successful in life and in FES or whatever you want, you have to be balanced, and you have to do all these things that you guys talked about today. It's so key. I mean, these are like the fundamentals. This is the game plan. This is I don't know, it's like being balanced and putting effort into all these areas is so key, because if you're just focused on, oh my God, I got to just do sales, well, you're lacking in so many other areas, and so we talk about self-development, but you guys did, oh my God, I'm going to go back and watch it for real, because this stuff is really key. And it's funny because I was just having a conversation with my, the therapist, and that, it's like, she's saying, it's not easy. And, she's a certified trainer, and she's like, people, they want to do these things, but then it was crazy because I saw right before I went in, Kendra talking about breaking the patterns, and this trainer, I mean, it's crazy how life works. She's saying, yeah, I mean, people just can't break that pattern. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, literally, I mean, 5 minutes after I hung up with, I had to hang up and go in there. Well, that's what we were talking about. She's like, yeah, people, it's not easy to change behaviors. People want to be healthy, but then they got to think about it, drink enough water, stay moving, blah, blah, stretch, flexibility, And I'm like, yeah, I said, that's been my issue, is like breaking that pattern of, I know I've got to do better because my body's been aching. I've been sitting too much, and we want to do it. But, like Kendra said, break the pattern, stand up and break, and Tony Robbins teaches that, breaking patterns. I mean, if you guys, I don't know if she talked about that, but like, Tony Robbins, he swears to break patterns, because it's like, you think this professional man on stage, he's got to appeal to all these people, and he's up there and he'll just bust out with the F word or this, and you're like, and it does, you're like, whoa, like, it shocks you because you're expecting, oh, in this setting he's going to act a certain way and speak a certain way, but he does it because he's trying to wake you back up, because he's talking to you for 14 hours. You got a shock, and it's always a shock because we're not used to people obviously cussing in that type of environment. So anyway, it's like, this was good stuff, guys. I appreciate you guys, getting up and doing this. And, this is something where these types of trainings to me are just so key, because if you want to be successful, like I said, in FES or anything, you've got, this is the key to it. And man, I'm really proud of what you guys did. I'm going to go back and listen to it. Tamara, you're amazing. Kendra is right. I mean, you're successful in this industry, but you're just a great person. I love how you share from the heart. And Kendra, you smashed it as always. I mean, this is your skill set for sure. And man, I'm glad to be a part of this team. You guys are awesome, and proud of you guys for jumping on a Saturday morning. The other, those that are on the call, because this is going to bless you, and we just got to share it. You know what I mean? I think I was talking to another vice president in one of my groups. It's going to start tying in a little bit more, but she was saying, oh God, lose my thought. Well, she was saying how, it's really, yes, Shirley. Oh my God, what was my thought? I had like 8 thoughts in my head. See, this is the summer part of me. What was she saying? Oh my goodness, just about tying in. Oh my God, I totally lost my thought, man. Look it. I'm like trying to drive and think. It was good though.
On the driving. I bet you that was great.
It was good. It was good.
I'm gonna tell you, it was good though. What the heck was it? I brought up Shirley for a reason. Vice President tying in. Oh my God. It was okay, it was relevant, trust me. What in the world?
Tony, you reminded me of a movie. No. I just can't think of which one.
Exactly. His pattern was broke.
Yeah, it was.
Because something happened when he was driving, and it broke.
I did. I had to turn, and someone went, and literally my thought went, was this the street? Okay.
But see, that's why you have to be in state. When you're in state with your alpha state, that retains that that message. But it's in there. He just has to get back up to the elevation of when he was taught whatever he wanted to say. Once he gets back there, it'll come right back to him. It's total recall.
So I have a challenge for everybody though. And that's looking at your wheel, identify 3 areas that you can work on, and just 3 things that you want to improve in those particular, well, 1 thing in each area that you want to improve. Because I think if we try to look at the whole wheel, it's so overwhelming. So look at 3 areas and then identify 1 thing out of each area that you could do. I mean, if fun is a low, I know fun is really low on my scale. This isn't my wheel, but it doesn't look too far off, right? But if fun is a low area, what could you do? And I know that's a challenge for a lot of people. There's a lot of people depressed right now because of being stuck in the house, right? Or not, not doing what they want to do. What area or what thing can you do that you enjoy doing, that you're not limited by, what's going on around you? So I don't know, just think of one thing in at least 3 of these areas that you feel you can improve. 1 thing, and work on that. Today. Yeah. Today.
Even if it's reaching out to somebody and saying, like you said, call a friend, or, my uncle may be transitioning. So it wasn't, it brought me back to spirituality and family. Like, am I doing enough to be the best 10 or mastery in that category, as far as, reaching out and just saying, I love you. And, I'm big on that. Normally I tell, we do our whole Ho'oponopono when we first start, but we got a late start today, where we just say, I am sorry. And as a matter of fact, we need to do that before we leave here, and then we can, and if Tony finds out what he thought about, then he can do it. But, we got to get in state. And I want you guys to just be a minute. I want us to breathe in a couple times, in and out. Love our lungs, love our oxygen in our body. Sometimes we just don't even know that we're on such automatic that we don't even breathing is, automatic. But and just calm your brain. Relax your eyes and the tissues around your eyes. And just feel yourself shifting into another state where you could say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for maybe not being the best person I was this week. I'm sorry for maybe not being disciplined enough to finish my to-do list. I'm sorry for not exercising. And just breathe and just say, I forgive you. Because the past does not dictate your future. And then say, I love you. I often say people don't hear that enough. We go through life every week without saying that we love ourselves. Some people can't even stare in the mirror and look at themselves. You tell yourself, I love you. Breathe in. And then thank yourself. Say, I thank you. I thank you for the small wins that I had this week. I thank you for any breakthroughs that I've discovered. I thank you for being aware that I can change and it is obtainable and I can do this. We have small wins that we can celebrate each and every day and be grateful for. And you deserve it. You're full of love. All right, we're going to come out of this and we're going to make a move. Shift your energy. Make a move, guys. Make a move. All right. Make a move.
Make a
Oh
move.
my God. Hey, and real quick, has anybody on?
You're covering up the mic.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Has anybody on here been to Tony Robbins? Okay, so nobody has. All right. Kendra and I went to Tony Robbins because we had an opportunity. Was it last year? I'm sure she told you that, but we were like, people, I'd heard about it my sales career and just never went. And then it was somebody that, made $1 million in 11 months in our real estate business. And I'm like, okay, I want to be, if you see someone who has success, then you want to emulate what they're doing. You're like, okay, wait, if it's working for you, there's got to be something to it. So we went, and I'll tell you what, I was not a believer. I could tell you the story probably better than me, but I was one of those that sat in the chair like, man, this stuff is crazy, man. And we had to be there for 4 days, man, like 12, 15 hours a day. And I'm like, but I'll tell you, I don't know how many hours that she'll probably remember, but I got into it, and now I'm like, Tony Robbins, obviously it works. He's got millions of people that follow him and go to it. All I'm saying is that find just years today. I'm saying this, going to events like Tony Robbins or whatever we're doing, Eric Worre. Those things are so important because we have to keep pouring into ourselves. It's just like we eat every day, right? We sleep every day. Then you need to put this stuff in your mind. Like if you want to be successful, you need to be poured into from people that have had success. And Tony Robbins is when, his event, it's not just him. He brings in experts in different fields that he's not an expert in, so we can learn from them. And I'll just say it's amazing. And if you want that higher level of success, it definitely works. And I can tell you that, after Tony Robbins, I will tell you, I've made more money the year following Tony Robbins than I've ever made in my life. So it's so crazy because I remember doing all the things that he said and then thinking, well, how is this really going to work? How is this really going to mean that I'm going to make more money? But I bought in, I did the things, and literally, guys, you have to understand when do we go to Tony Robbins? That was last year, right? 19, right? Was it
when we went? Yeah, when we went, I just came from Tony Robbins, but we went last year.
No, I know you just came again, but the first time. Right.
Last
So
year.
guys, 2019, I went to Tony Robbins. 2000. Yeah. So in 2020, the year after I went to the event, I made more money than I ever made in my life. So I don't know. Is it like coincidence? I think that would be really weird. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I put those things into practice. I started, was I perfect? No. But I did a lot of the things that he talked about, and I continue to learn and grow. And we're going to mess up, we screw up, and then we move on and we pick ourselves up and we keep on moving. Right. And that's how you learn and get better. Because I'll tell you, when you mess up, it actually does make you way better if you are the type of person that wants to be better. You know what I mean? Now, not everyone does. People mess up and just keep messing up. But if you're focused on getting better and you're doing these types of things, like you guys getting up on a Saturday morning and getting on this type of training, you're there. You just got to keep doing it and find other things to pour into yourself. And I think one of the thoughts, I don't know if it was the exact point, but with Shirley, she was talking about needing to plug in more. And you guys are doing that. So sometimes this is like preaching to the choir, but this is the message we can get out with stories. Shirley, they're and her husband, they're vice presidents, but they feel like they stagnated and they pour into their team, but they haven't been plugging in. Right. And so they realize, man, we've got to plug in to get that energy. Sometimes you see groups, and you guys are seeing this, people want to go off and do their own thing, and they're not plugged into a source. They're not plugged into information where anyone's pouring into them. So guess what's going to happen? They're going to dry up. For lack of a better term, they dry up. And then how can they feed someone when they're dry? They're trying to feed from an empty well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's what happens. And I think like, and I was talking with Shirley, she's like, I need to get involved in more of the team and get around it. And who else can I plug into? And I want to get on your team calls. So this is so key, guys, is that edifying, right? And so she talked about, sometimes we found that she was talking about some of her leaders, they're not edifying the video properly. So they're not getting people in front of the information. And so guys, that's where we have to learn all these different skill sets, and you have to promote, like, so I'm talking about this video right here today. You should edify this video. How do you do it? You tell a story of what it did for you. Does that make sense? Like, so they say facts tell, stories sell. And so you guys telling the story of what this would do for you today, edify this video, get more people, and guess what we can do? Then get 50 people, 100 people on this Saturday morning, and you're going to see your groups explode, because this business is not just about X's and O's, like selling, when I talk about with sports, with selling a protection plan, what's the script? No, it's about building people and plugging in and building a big team. And this is what it's all about. So I'm fired up. You guys, I hope you have a great Saturday, and I'm excited about this. I can't wait to watch it, and appreciate all of you guys.
Thanks, Tim.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Tamara. This is great. And again, I learned this from Tony Robbins. You bring in the experts in that particular category, and you definitely, Tamara, smashed it. Thanks for
Kendra, for the
contributing.
platform. Thank you
Thank
for allowing me to. I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. And anyone else that wants to contribute, I mean, it's not a me show. It's a we show. So if you have stuff to contribute that's about personal growth, if you have experiences, please connect with me and we can talk about that. Okay, you guys have a super amazing day. Raise your level of elevation. Go out and do something different. Change that pattern and just do it and evaluate afterwards. So with that, I am going to yield the floor, and you guys have a great $1 million day.
Thank you. Take care.
Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.